Kia ora, hello and Guten Tag. Welcome to Berlin Wall Stories, an exhibition that was commissioned by the German Embassy in Wellington in Aotearoa, New Zealand. It explores the perspectives of 10 unique people and their relationship with the Berlin Wall, a concrete wall that once divided East and West Berlin, and the border strip that ran between the Federal Republic of Germany and the German Democratic Republic. You're about to hear a recorded interview with one of our participants who shared their personal Mauergeschichte, their Berlin Wall story. Enjoy and viel Spaß beim Zuhören.
My name is Tony Salsano, and I moved to Germany when I was 10 years old in 1978. I moved after 10 years that my parents already lived and worked there for nearly 10 years. My brothers and I, we grew up with my grandparents in southern Italy. And 78 was the year that we joined our parents in Germany, in Oberfranken, not far away from the border.
Right. Whereabouts was that? Very close to the border? Did you see the border?
We moved to Neuenzeug by Coburg. At some stage, my dad started opening up restaurants, and he opened up altogether 4 of them. One was in Burgkunstadt, one in Sonnefeld by Coburg. The third one was in Michelau, Landkreis Lichtenfels, region of Lichtenfels. And the last one was Neustadt by Coburg, which was 3 kilometers, maybe 2 to 3 kilometers away from the border, from the Sonneberg border, from the Thüringen border.
And if you look onto at the map of Germany, whereabouts is that region? Is that in which federal state?
It's one is Bavaria, and the new and the other one is Thüringen, Thuringia.
And that so between Thuringia and Bavaria was the border as well. I guess a lot of people think that the so-called Berlin Wall ran through the whole country. So, by you've been living next to the border, if you like, and was that the case? I mean, did that look like the concrete slabs we all have seen in Berlin already, or how did that border strip look like?
That was not the wall as such as in Berlin, but we had metal fences. Where behind the fences we had watching towers with armed soldiers and German shepherds patrolling that behind the border. Between the watchtowers and the fence, there was a part where they used to call the death line, and was full of mines and full of automatic guns.
It sounds quite scary, to be honest.
Yeah, yes.
to live next to such a place.
Yes, it was actually. It was every time when I was visiting my brother actually in Neustadt by Coburg. It was quite scary to look driving to Burgkunstadt. So I had the towers on my left hand side, and I could see how serious they were on the other side. So if you came close to the border, they would have shot you.
Wow.
Yeah, they would have shot you.
And do you know if people were shot right there, like at that particular strip or area?
I'm not sure. I know that further on, 100 kilometers away, where someone was shot dead because he came too close to speak to some on the other side.
Ooh.
And he got shot dead.
So maybe tell us, how did you think about this whole divided Germany at that time? I mean, you were how old? You came to Germany when you were 10, and maybe as a 10-year-old you don't think too much about political stuff, but later on as you grew into an adult, how did you feel about the whole divided country?
Yeah, it was somehow for us. It was the end there. You couldn't go anywhere else. So even these days, when I'm going to Germany, it's quite strange for me to go to places like Sonneberg to go to places like Leipzig because we never had growing up. I never had this before, and now I see that it's normal, but it wasn't that normal at all. And I still have that border in my head. So I haven't seen so far the 30 years, 35 years that the border is down, and I still haven't seen much of new Germany. I must have seen maybe Leipzig. That's all I saw.
So have you ever walked over that border, like from Neustadt by Coburg to Sonneberg?
Yes, actually, once it was open, it became a common practice that because there was a supermarket was just across the border. But that's where my wife and I, once we got married, that's where we went to get our shopping. But I never went further. Never went behind Sonneberg. I never went behind Leipzig. That's just the border is still there for me.
And why do you think is that the case? Why is the border still there for you inside?
I'm not sure. Maybe because we grew up that we didn't. It was nothing behind there, and then at some stage I moved to New Zealand, and I never experienced that. Openness between both borders.
Were you still in Germany in 1989?
Yes, I was there on actually when they opened up the border on the 12th. I can remember it was in November the 12th, and the Bavarian chancellor came on that day, Edmund Stoiber, and to do a speech opening officially the border between Bavaria and Thüringen.
And can you recall what he said, or do you have like an anecdote in your head that kind of stuck with you from that day?
Not really. I was too young to listen to be interested in politics. I was just there because it was in highlights. Opening up the border.
How old were you in 89?
89. I was 19.
Right. Did you probably think about all those Eastern German people? Maybe the question is, how did you actually think about them? Did you think about them in a welcoming way, or were you afraid, or what was your thought about it?
Yeah, of course, we all thought on a welcoming way because we knew how hard it was for people that used to live in the DDR. Yeah, and of course we were welcoming. We tried to help as we could.
And do you recall like a special occasion or an experience where you maybe met them or talked to them?
Funnily enough, I went once nightclubbing in Sonneberg, and I had my Nike sport shoes, and the bouncer didn't allow me to go in. And then I met someone, and he was nicely enough to swap his shoes with me, and so I was able to go nightclubbing with his shoes.
Because it was an American brand, and I didn't want to have it in the club.
No, because they didn't like sport shoes in the club. They wanted classical shoes to have classical shoes in there.
And do you recall any conversation with an Eastern German person about that historic event after the wall came down? Is there anybody you can recall?
Not really with people, but we knew all the stories. Having the restaurant, and people always that went to visit family there. They always telling us stories what they saw and how hard it was for their relatives over there, and telling us that they didn't have any things like bananas, chocolates. There was a lot of stuff that was not available there.
And then they came over to Bavaria sometimes to go shopping. Is that correct?
Oh, it was the relatives that bought the stuff for them over there.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And now and then you could hear stories that some people smuggled their relatives with them once they visit them. Smuggle them in the boat and bring them over. And I hear even stories that they had mirrors that they could look under the car, and it was not easy to cross that border.
No. So what would have happened to them if they would have been caught?
Well, I would have thought that they would have gone to jail, and what happens in that jail? Question mark. I'm not sure.
How do you think about Germany today? I mean, you already said you feel like the border is still with you somehow. I find that quite interesting. You live in New Zealand now. How do you feel about Germany today?
Yeah, it's been good to us. It's been good to my family. Unfortunately, we had to come back to New Zealand because my parents-in-law got sick. But Germany is a great place. It was before the wall came down, a great place to live, and it's still these days a great place to live for non-Germans.
Do you think that Germans were reunited, like that reunification was successful, or how do you feel about that topic?
I think that that the border is still there, even for Eastern Germany and people from the DDR. Not so much like it's in my mind, but I think that it's still there. For example, unemployment, pay. The pay is not the same over there or in Eastern Germany. It's not the same like in Western Germany. So they're still struggling to be on the same level.
And can you maybe take us along on how you actually met your partner, your wife, in Germany, and then found your way to New Zealand? How did that come together?
My wife was an exchange student from Gisborne, and I used to run, as I mentioned, not far away from the border. I used to run a restaurant, and that's she came once for a meal, and that's where I met my wife, and yeah.
And then she lived in Germany with you?
She came just for a year for exchange year, and after we decided to get married, yes, she lived in Germany with me for nearly 15 years.
Wow. And then you moved to New Zealand.
We moved to New Zealand because we had to come back to New Zealand because as I mentioned before, my in-laws got sick, and my wife wanted to come back home.
Of course. And so which time to what time did you live in Germany together? Was that in the 90s until the 2000s, early 2000s?
90s until 2003.
Right. And then you went to New Zealand.
Yes.
Right. And do you have plans to move back at some stage?
We're thinking of at some stage maybe to have a year or 2 years of our jobs and go back there.
Interesting. Yeah. I guess you have children as well. Did you talk to them about that topic of Germany being divided, you living by the border at the time? Did you ever have a conversation with your children about this?
So our children went actually to school in Germany. Our daughter went up to year 5 gymnasium, and my 2 sons managed to go in Grundschule, year 3 and year 1. And even these days, they still have friends over there, so they have experienced all this too. Yeah, they knew that there was a border there.
But they were a bit too young, though, when...
too young to know what's... But at the time, they were in Germany.
And the reunification was in 1990, in October. So there was a whole year of finding their feet and being in limbo status, perhaps, yeah.
Because I know that it was 90 because my son was born on the 3rd of October 90, 96, Tag der Deutschen Einheit. And that's why I remembered that particular day, 3rd of October,
It's nice.
because it's our son's birthday.
That's really cool, and that's the day
Yeah.
of reunification.
Yeah.
And the day of the fall of the Berlin Wall is the 9th of November. So those 2 dates, they kind of engraved into so many, German minds, perhaps, especially in Eastern German, I guess. But thank you. Would you like to share something I didn't ask you, something that has to do with the time, maybe around that fall of the Berlin Wall? Is there something that comes to mind?
Maybe that sometimes we just drove to the border just to have, just to have a look at it with my brothers or with friends, and just to look at it, how serious it was on that other side, daytime or at night time, when they had their spotlights, their big lights on. It was these days, unbelievable. It's just
Yeah. But you knew where you could go, and so you don't.
Yeah, because it was the main road, so we were able to drive around the main road and just we were just park and just have a look. It was maybe 50 meters away from us, from the main road, from Neustadt bei Coburg going to Mitwitz.
So can I imagine that you driving on the road, and to your right or to your left there was the border strip?
50 meters. Yeah, 50 meters is not the border, but the fence, the electric fence, the fence, the metal fence, and the border crossing was between. Then it was between past Neustadt and going to Sonneberg.
And that was like a checkpoint, perhaps.
A checkpoint, yeah, a checkpoint, but not a big one. The big one was going through Hof.
This is actually where my family went to West Germany for the first time, because we lived close to the Hof area, like on the Eastern German side, Erzgebirge.
Okay.
So when the border was opened, we went to Hof to see what's going on, and there was a long queue of cars, and just a never-ending queue of cars. And then my grandparents decided to turn around and go back.
I can't remember what it was called. There was one between Neustadt Sonneberg. The other one was what was the Überhof?
Never mind. It sounds very interesting that like a bunch of boys goes there just to have a look.
Yeah, well, actually, 2 weeks after the wall fell, the first thing what we did, we drove to Berlin, and and even the checkpoint we went through, they were not quite sure what was happening. Give us a stamp or not in our passports. Do we still need this or not? Because I think even the police from Eastern Germany, I think they didn't even know what to do there, because it seemed like there was no one in charge anymore. So they didn't really know how serious is it. Is it still worth it to check these passports, or is it not?
Yeah.
It was quite funny.
So how can I imagine that? You and your brothers and friends, you jumped into a car, and then you said, let's go to Berlin. Can you describe?
Yeah, that's on our spare on our Ruhetag, also the day off the restaurant. It's go to Berlin, and but as you know, you had to go through the border, because it was just one way, and you had to go through the Eastern Germany border.
Right. And what was that for a feeling to go through after the wall came down?
Yeah, it was even if the soldier or the police didn't know what to do, even us, we weren't quite sure.
So you were just driving along, and then let's see if we get through or not.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
More or less, yeah. More or less. What another thing what I can recall is that during that time, all the second-hand car dealers had no more cars. So all cars under 15,000 German mark were all sold out. There was a shortage on TV. There was a shortage on VHS recorders. So it was a shortage everywhere in all the shops.
So Eastern German people came over to buy.
Just came over and just bought everything. Especially when once the DDR Deutschmark turned into 1 to 1. It was unbelievable how much stuff. All the shelves in the supermarket empty. So it was for a few weeks. It was quite unusual for us.
Can imagine. And did they turn up in your restaurant as well? Like, did you have different guests then?
Yes. I use my restaurant used to be just not far away from the Burgundstadt Council, and you could see all people driving up to the council because each of them received welcome money, which was 100 Deutschmark. And having the restaurant not far away from the council was quite practical because on the way back they just stopped and enjoyed a nice meal.
And how was the restaurant called, or is it still there today?
It's in Neustadt bei Coburg. It's called Amalfi.
Amalfi.
And it's at the train station in Neustadt bei Coburg.
Right.
Amazing. And then there's another one that's called Bei Raffaela, and it's in Sonnefeld by Coburg. And these are my two brothers. They're still there, still operating.
So did they tell you about the stories they experienced with Eastern German people when they opened the restaurant there?
Yes, but I cannot recall. But friends of mine went actually to Eastern Germany to open up restaurants, and they're still there these days. They are in Chemnitz. Friends of mine that open up the restaurants. And speaking about Chemnitz, another story that I recall is on the way to Berlin at the time we tried to stop in Karl-Marx-Stadt. So we were in the middle of Chemnitz, and we asked someone, "Excuse me, can you tell us how we get to Karl-Marx-Stadt?" And he said, "You are in Karl-Marx-Stadt." Yeah, that was funny.
And what was your impression of Karl-Marx-Stadt?
In comparison to these days, it was dark, not well kept. The houses weren't not well kept, so looked quite depressive. Whereas these days, it's a beautiful city.
Oh, have you been there again?
Yes. It's these days. It's a beautiful city. As I mentioned, I got friends there.
Yeah.
And when I visit them, it's beautiful.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah. Public transport and public places, so it's a beautiful place.
And still, you have the wall in your head, although you saw the change.
Yeah, because as I mentioned, I would love to go to Jena. I would like to go to places like Dresden, but we are just. Maybe next time. Maybe I'll try next time when I go over there.
Obviously, a big change has happened to all of those cities, and they are very beautiful. I mean, although, it is 35 years ago, but it's still an ongoing process. But I have to confess, I think that's a vice versa thing for many people, perhaps from Eastern Germany as well, because they have probably never gone to see Rhineland-Pfalz or, the western border of Germany. They've probably never been there. So it would be nice for Germans to travel in their own country a little bit more. Yeah, thank you so much, Tony. I think to finish it off, I'd like to know, I'd like to finish that story off in my head of you boys being in one car driving from Neustadt by Coburg through Karl-Marx-Stadt up to Berlin. How did that story end? Like, what did you do in Berlin?
We went to that Kaufhaus des Westens because it was always people were talking about it, and we went to a Rolling Stones concert to watch the Stones.
No.
Yeah, that's it.
That's cool.
Berliner Olympiastadion.
Yeah, okay. But you were allowed, as just to explain it for people who have never heard about how you actually got over the border. So it was easier for Western German people to get into the East than for Eastern German people to go into the West. So you had to have a reason for this.
Before it was, of course, it was for Eastern Germans was easier to. They had to apply for it, of course. They had to make an application that would like to visit family members over there, and then a screening process would have gone through, and at some stage they would have allowed or not allowed people to go there. But it was definitely easier for Western Germans to go to Eastern Germany.
So did you need to apply as well, or did you just rock up at the border point and then you could just pass with your passport?
No, we had to apply for so you had to have a reason to go over there. So for me, as a non-German, I would have never had. I don't think so. I would have had a chance to go to Eastern Germany. So you had to have family members there. That would have been a reason to be allowed to go to Eastern Germany.
Thank you so much. Oh, interesting. All right. I think that's a really cool story. As part of our Berlin Wall Stories exhibition. Thank you so much, Toni, for your time and your story, and for sharing.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening. This was an interview recorded by the curator of the Berlin Wall Stories exhibition, Alexandra Falk. We hope you enjoyed it. There are 9 more recorded interviews in this playlist. Maybe you want to explore them as well. Thank you and bis bald.